8 minutes ago, the Indiana Fever locker room shifted from laughter to complete silence as Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hall stepped forward with an announcement about Caitlin Clark that left fans shocked and teammates frozen in disbelief. It was the kind of moment that hits you in the chest before your mind can even process the words. A raw and emotional reveal that has already set the internet ablaze and sparked endless speculation about what is really happening inside this team. Sophie Cunningham was the first to break the silence, stepping in front of reporters and teammates with the same unshakable game face she is known for. But this time, there was something different in her eyes, something that told everyone in the room that whatever was coming was not going to be just another routine update. Her voice was steady, but it carried that edge you only hear when a player is holding back a flood of emotion. Sophie told the room that what they were about to share was not easy, but it needed to be said, and before anyone could even guess. Lexie Hull, standing just beside her, reached for the mic and continued without hesitation. Her tone was softer but just as serious as she revealed that Caitlin Clark would be stepping away from the court for the foreseeable future, not because of a trade, not because of any feud, and not because of league politics, but due to what they described only as a personal matter, refusing to give any details and making it clear they would not be answering follow-up questions. The air in the room grew so tense you could hear a pin drop as the reality sank in that the Fever's biggest star was gone for reasons no one could fully understand. And outside that room, the news exploded instantly across social media with fans, analysts, and even rival players scrambling to figure out what could possibly be happening behind closed doors at such a critical moment in the season. The moment the words left Lexie Hull's mouth, the shock rippled far beyond the Fever's locker room because within minutes, the announcement was everywhere. Twitter feeds lit up, Instagram comment sections overflowed, and TikTok clips of the press conference racked up millions of views before most people had even finished lunch. Fans began dissecting every frame of Sophie's expression and every shift in Lexie's tone, convinced there was more being left unsaid, with some insisting they saw Sophie's lip tremble just before she handed over the mic, while others swore. They heard Lexie's voice catch as she said Caitlin's name. In the middle of that chaos, rumors began to swirl faster than the team's PR could contain, with unverified whispers about a behind-the-scenes incident, private struggles, and even cryptic theories about something that happened during the Fever's last road trip. Each theory grew more dramatic than the last, all fueling a storm of speculation that seemed impossible to control. And yet, through it all, neither Sophie nor Lexie revealed a single extra detail, shutting down questions with polite but firm replies, and making it clear they were protecting their teammate no matter what, a move that only fueled even more curiosity about what could have possibly pushed Caitlin Clark, one of the most competitive and visible players in the league, to step away, at the peak of a season where every game matters. Looking back, some fans now believe the signs were there all along, pointing to Clark's recent public appearances where her trademark energy seemed just a little dimmer, her post-game smiles shorter, her interviews more guarded, and her usually sharp, confident answers replaced with quick, almost evasive responses, especially whenever questions drifted away from basketball. At the time, most people assumed it was simply exhaustion from the grueling WNBA schedule, but a few die-hard followers noticed subtle moments that now feel like red flags in hindsight. A deep sigh before walking into the tunnel after a narrow win, a tense exchange caught on camera between Caitlin and Sophie during practice that both brushed off with a laugh, and even a late-night Instagram story with nothing but the words "focus on what matters" over a black screen, which fans are now convinced was an early clue of what was coming. And while it is impossible to know for sure whether those moments were connected to Caitlin Clark's sudden leave, the timeline has become a breeding ground for theories, each one adding more fuel to the fire. If there is one thing the WNBA community thrives on, it is piecing together the hidden story behind every headline, and right now all signs point to something much bigger brewing beneath the surface than anyone on the outside has been allowed to see. For those who have followed Sophie Cunningham's career, the weight of her stepping up to deliver this kind of news cannot be overstated because Sophie isn't just another teammate. She has built her reputation on being the loudest, fiercest, and most unapologetic defender of her team's stars, the kind of player who will take a technical foul without hesitation if it means sending a message to anyone who dares to mess with her squad. And when Caitlin Clark joined the Fever, it was Sophie who immediately stepped into the role of enforcer, making it clear through both her words and her actions that anyone coming for Caitlin on the court would have to go through her first. That loyalty earned her praise from fans and criticism from rivals, but it also cemented her as Caitlyn's closest ally on the floor, which is why her voice shaking ever so slightly during this announcement carried so much weight. This wasn't a polished PR moment, it was a raw human reaction from someone who has spent the entire season putting her body on the line for the player she was now asking the world to respect and give space to. And if you rewind the past few weeks, you can see how hard Sophie has been fighting in ways that go beyond basketball, from publicly clapping back at critics who mocked Caitlyn's shooting slump to calling out what she viewed as unfair officiating, targeting the rookie to walking out and matching warm-ups with Lexie Hall as a quiet but powerful show of unity before a tense home game. All of which made Sophie's presence at the mic today feel less like a responsibility and more like a personal mission, with an unspoken message that whatever Caitlyn is facing, Sophie is going to shield her from the noise, even if it means standing in the crossfire herself. If Sophie brought the fire to the announcement, Lexie Hall brought the quiet weight that made it hit even harder. Lexie isn't the type to seek the spotlight. She's known for her precision on the court, her discipline in the locker room, and her tendency to let her game speak louder than her words. So when she stepped up beside Sophie and took the mic mid-sentence, it was the kind of move that made everyone in the room sit up a little straighter. Her tone was calm, but carried that unmistakable tremor of someone holding back a wave of emotion. And for longtime Fever fans, the moment spoke volumes because Lexie and Caitlyn have been building a subtle but undeniable chemistry all season long. They kind you notice in those quick glances after a big play, the extra high fives in practice, and the way Lexie always seemed to be one of the first to meet Caitlyn at half court after a game winner, which is why hearing her speak about Caitlyn stepping away felt less like a generic teammate statement and more like a personal loss. A shift that left an emotional hole for both the roster and the fans, and if you look back at recent weeks, you can see Lexie's role growing not just on the scoreboard, but in the team's identity, her confidence on the three-point line, her smart defensive reads, and her viral pre-game fashion moments with Sophie that had social media buzzing all point to a player stepping into a bigger spotlight. So for her to put all of that aside today and stand shoulder to shoulder with Sophie for this announcement says everything about where her priorities truly lie, because at the end of the day, no matter the wins, losses, or personal accolades, Lexie made it clear protecting Caitlyn Clark comes before everything else. What made the announcement even more unsettling was Caitlyn Clark's complete silence, because in a time when athletes usually break news themselves on Instagram or Twitter before a team even releases an official statement, her absence from every platform spoke louder than any post could. And it is not like she had been inactive recently. Just a few weeks ago, she was playfully clapping back at Sophie's teasing about her lack of social media presence, sharing behind-the-scenes glimpses from practice, and even telling a reporter, with a smirk, that she prefers to focus on basketball, not likes. At the time, the comment felt casual, but now it carries a heavier meaning, almost as if she was quietly preparing for this step without inviting speculation. And when you add that to her most recent interviews, a pattern begins to show, with her answers becoming shorter and her trademark energy appearing just a little dimmer, and any question that touched on her personal life was met with the kind of quick pivot you only see from someone guarding more than just the ball, all of which paints the picture of a player carrying something far heavier than the stat sheet could ever show. As Sophie and Lexie fielded question after question during the press conference, Caitlyn's empty seat became the unspoken centerpiece of the entire room, a silent reminder that whatever she is facing, it is serious enough to pull her away from the game she has built her life around. That silence has now turned into the canvas for every theory, rumor, and insider whisper flooding sports media, and the impact of Caitlyn Clark stepping away stretches far beyond one player missing from the lineup. This isn't just any rookie. This is the centerpiece of the Fever's offense, the league's biggest draw, and the very reason ticket sales and television ratings have been surging all season. So when the news of her absence broke, it wasn't just fans reacting, it was the entire WNBA ecosystem shifting in real time, with rival teams instantly reassessing their game plans, media outlets scrambling to rewrite storylines, and league officials quietly worrying about how this could impact the playoff push and the momentum they have been riding since opening night. Inside the Fever's locker room, the ripple effect is just as real, because no matter how much Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hall step up as leaders, the truth is Caitlyn's presence changes everything from how the defense rotates to the confidence Her teammates play with both on and off the ball. The Fever now face an entirely new set of challenges, both strategic and emotional, and while the public sees a united front, the pressure behind the scenes is building fast. Because every practice, every pre-game huddle, and every tough fourth quarter possession from here on out will be shaped by the absence of their brightest star. And if that wasn't enough, the timing makes it even more painful, coming just as the Fever had finally found their stride, pulling off key wins that were shifting the narrative from a rebuilding year to legitimate contenders. A storyline that now hangs in the balance as fans, analysts, and even other players try to figure out whether this team can withstand the storm without the player they were built around. Yet in the middle of all this uncertainty, there's a strange sense of defiance coming from the Fever's core, because if you look closely, Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull aren't carrying themselves like a team in free fall, they are carrying themselves like players determined to fight harder than ever. They show up to practice with an extra edge, rally the rest of the roster in ways that don't always make it onto the highlight reels, and make subtle but powerful gestures to keep Caitlin's presence alive even in her absence, from wearing her number on wristbands to posting throwback clips of her biggest plays, sending a clear message to both fans and critics that they are not giving up on her or the season. But as inspiring as that is, it doesn't erase the reality that the Fever's future now depends on something no one outside their inner circle can control. And the secrecy surrounding Caitlin's situation has only deepened the intrigue, leaving everyone to wonder whether this is a short-term break, a season-ending setback, or the first sign of a bigger shift in her career. The truth is, nobody knows. Not the analysts, not the fans, and certainly not the reporters chasing the next headline, because the only people who can answer that are staying silent, and maybe that's exactly how they want it for now. What began as a sudden emotional announcement has now become one of the most talked about mysteries of the WNBA season, a story that is just as much about loyalty, friendship, and protection as it is about basketball. And no matter what happens next, one thing is certain: Sophie Cunningham and Lexie Hull have drawn a line in the sand, making it clear they will stand by Caitlin Clark through whatever storm she is facing, leaving the rest of us to wait, watch, and wonder how different the league might look when she finally steps back onto the court.